Korrie Powell, welcome to the Trenches Talk podcast. Come on.
Yo, welcome. What's good, Toby?
Yeah,
what you
what's
saying?
good, man? Well, it's been a long time coming. I'm glad you could come through,
Bro,
see the Trenches HQ in its full force.
I know, man.
But also just chat to me and the people about your journey and about our journey as well, because
Yeah.
we've worked together quite a lot recently. So,
Defo, man. Defo.
but yeah, welcome. So to be fair, I've kind of got a little starting segment that I'm going to trial on this one.
Yeah.
Landscape or vertical?
Landscape or vertical? Oh, my God. All right, cool. Nah, man. Landscape all the way, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I can't do the vertical shit no more, man. I'm sorry. It's too much, man. Like, you basically just, like, you reduce your frame size by so much, man. And like, I mean, you can be creative with it, but like landscape all the way. Like, I've been watching films on landscape for all my life, so it's only right that when I get to that point where I'm making my films, I'm doing it landscape. You know what I mean? I can't get to where I'm in the industry and then they say change the whole, shift the whole goalpost and everything and change everything. Nah, man, landscape.
Yeah, I agree, and I think everyone else would. I know, yeah. Like I thought I'd trial that little thing, you know. But I kind of know the answer already. But maybe there's some work into it. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, cool. So Korrie, tell me who you are and what you do.
Dope, man. So yeah, I'm Korrie Powell. I'm a director and photographer and creative. Based in London, specifically North London. Yeah, 2025. I'll be 26 in a couple of weeks actually. And dude, I direct. I work in the advertising agency called BBH. I work for a production company called Black Sheep Studios. So that's where I'm kind of currently based as like a director there. So I do a lot of like kind of like commercial social content stuff. Do a lot of like kind of like stuff with like Barclays, Samsung, Tesco, all the kind of like big British kind of companies essentially. And then I also kind of do my own creative projects on the side. I do like short films, been doing a lot more music videos and stuff with you, a little bit like doing a bit more creative stuff. And I do my own photography projects and series as well. So like I do a lot of things basically, yeah, but it's all creative, all kind of cool and all kind of telling stories about me and my life and kind of how I implement that out there in my creative process essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, sick. And so like, how did you first get started? Like maybe kind of bullet point and walk me through, you know, young Korrie finding film to then maybe get to going with BBH. Maybe chat me through that.
Okay,
that
cool.
Kind of.
Yeah, so like the kind of genesis story, innit? So I guess it all kind of really started back in like in college days, you know, when I went to City and Islington College in Angel. And I was always kind of like interested in film. I remember the subjects that I was studying were sociology, media studies, film studies, and I did like an EPQ as well. I did politics, but I dropped it because I ain't no politician. So that was always quite interesting to me, and I just usually spent a lot of my time kind of like watching like music videos. I mean, it was the time when like Joey Badass and like Tyler the Creator, when that whole kind of new hip hop scene kind of first started, and everyone was kind of coming out, and the music videos were kind of crazy and stuff. So I was like, oh shit, this is something that I kind of want to do. And obviously, growing up around like Channel U, SBTV, watching them music videos when I was younger, it was always something that I wanted to kind of try. And I think when I got to college, that's when it really kind of took a factor in my life. And I was gonna go to like uni, and I was kind of deciding what to do. Come from like a Jamaican household, so it's like you got to go to uni. That's the only way you're gonna survive in life, if you go to uni. So I was thinking to go to Ravensbourne and Lincolnshire, but actually during that process when I was doing my I forgot UCAS and all of that stuff, I actually did like a internship, like almost like a 3-day course at a film production company. I think they were called Casual Films at the time. So what they do, they basically work with like young people in the area essentially, and they make like a Christmas card video, and then basically work with like charities to teach kids how to go in the film production process and make a video for a charity. So it's all for a good cause. And I did it, and we made a charity for a place called Manor Gardens, which is basically talking to like the elderly, and basically a charity that focuses on like helping elderly people make friends and stuff and kind of combat loneliness essentially. And I did that, and I guess I was just kind of keen. Like it was my first time kind of experimenting with cameras, seeing how you write a creative, you go into production, and then you post production, you edit it, and you put it out there. And I was like, rah, this is kind of cool. And I guess the CEO at the time, Nick Francis, he kind of took a liking to me, and he was like, "Do you want to extend it for a week?" And I was like, "Yeah," I did it for a week, and that was cool. When I basically learned a bit more about filmmaking 101, and then after that, he was like, "Yo, we're gonna offer you like a year internship." I was like, "Raw," and they were like, "Paid?" I was like, "Yo," so I told my mom, and she was like super gassed for me, and she was almost like, "Oh, but you're still gonna go to uni?" And I was like, "I'll just gap year it." And I did the year internship, and it was something that was probably like really started the trajectory of my career. I basically worked as an assistant, in-house filmmaker. So I was often like, when I was on shoots, I was assisting like the main cameraman. I was writing treatments, basically doing like all the in-house production stuff, making like the in-house kind of content that we did, and just kind of just being a fly on the wall, really. And then I guess I got to my end of my year, and I had to go on my like Luke Skywalker journey, as I call it, and find myself. And then I started shadowing. I went to like SBTV. I did some work with Reggie at the BBC, and I was just kind of running and gunning. And obviously, I was working part time at a bar because you got to hustle, you know, because he lives and all of that stuff. And yeah, and I was kind of got to a point where I was shadowing all these kind of directors and productions, and I was like, yo, I kind of need to like make something for myself. So I started working in the bar, and basically saved up like $1.5 grand to basically make my first short film called Rage. And that was like during 2019, 2020-ish, essentially. And yeah, I put basically the film was about like the idea of like black masculinity and vulnerability, and how those two things kind of go in together. I got to a point in my life where I saw a lot of like the man them around me, the older guys, especially working in the bar. You see a lot of different type of men kind of walking in, and you could all see there was this like weight on their chest, innit? So I kind of just said like, you know what, I think it's important to kind of talk about that. And it was that time where I actually started going to therapy, counseling. There wasn't anything, I didn't really have any underlying problems. I just thought, you know what, my borough gave free counseling to under 25s, and I was like, let me try it. I didn't want to get to a point where I was like, bro, I wish I did therapy, and turned out washed out and whatnot. So I did it, and then that informed a lot of my process, and I took a lot from myself. So I just made a film with a bunch of the man them who were also from that kind of background of black British men who had their own experiences with black masculinity, and we made a powerful short film. And then that kind of kicked off, did really well. Went around, did what it needed to kind of do. It affected a lot of people, did a few screenings for it, even reached out to him Rawai as well. I sent it to him, and he watched it and he loved it. So I kind of felt like, rah, this is actually working, this is cool, you know what I mean? I got something to say. So I kept on doing that, and then started doing a little bit more photography. And then one day I just got an email and a message from Dan Keith, who was like the ex EP at Black Sheep Studios at the time. And they were saying that we're looking for like a kind of young, interesting kind of filmmaker to jump on board at our in-house production company, and kind of just make the film process that they have over there a lot more easier, innit? So I had no idea what advertising was. I was like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Obviously not to the extent that I know now, but I was like, what's the worst that can happen? So I went for the interview, and then I guess I was just asking them more questions than they were asking me. And then essentially they were like, yeah, we really like what you're doing. And they thought I was really proactive. And then they gave me the job. And then, yeah, I picked up that job when I was 21 and 25 now. So I've been there for about 4 years now. So yeah, now I'm at Black Sheep Studios, and I guess what they are is like an in-house production company to the agency that it's BBH. So like I said, they have like a bunch of like clients that they work with, and a lot of the social content stuff that gets funneled comes through us. And we're there to be at service to basically make that process a lot more smoother and easier. And then I guess I've been there now, and I've just been building up a breadth of work, and then kind of just learning the language of advertising. And I got to that point where I kind of understood how to work and to make sense of things, and start to implement more of my own style into these things. And then I guess basically that's where I am now, making more films, making more music videos. And then I got to a point where I met you. Yeah. So yeah, man. And I guess we're still on that journey, innit?
Definitely,
So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. That's been a crazy kind of come up story. Like major congrats on Rage as well, and like that. Obviously, doing bits, like it's nice when a moment like that kind of all comes together.
Proper.
So yeah, like you know, there was a lot to dissect in that, but chat to me more about, you know, you're a black British director, but you don't do hood videos, you don't do rap, you do about, you know, toxic masculinity and what, you know, what has that always kind of rung true? Or like, did you always want to be different like that, or has that always kind of been in you to look at things in a different way, you know?
Yeah, I think definitely, like, obviously being a Black British director, like, you are often looked at in a certain way. And obviously, like, most of us, we kind of share the same stories. Obviously, like, being Black is like a nuanced thing. There's many different types of it, but there's often like this kind of umbrella that we all get clumped into. But I think a lot of us relate to the similar experiences. So I think 9 times out of 10, you could say most Black people enjoy hip hop, like rap and whatever. So we grew up watching like Channel U and SBTV because they're like moments that are like pivotal towards our culture as people. So I always enjoyed those films, like those music videos and the content and the films that were coming out from like our kind of like culture. But I guess for me, I always thought there was like underlying causes and underlying things that we needed to kind of look more at. And I didn't want to necessarily always be the guy that was in the pack of like 101 directors doing the same thing or 101 people doing the same thing. I wanted to always kind of stand out in my own way. And I guess more time, like when I was younger, I was always just kind of watching things, always questioning things, always asking the why. You know, that kid that's always like, why? That's me, innit? That's why my mum hates me to this day. But you know what? I felt like it's just, I wanted to kind of do more. I know, and to kind of, when I got older and I became a bit more aware of my creative process, I wanted to be like, yeah, I actually challenged myself. I wanted to kind of push things and kind of like put us in a place where like we could look at things a little bit differently. And like these are things that are like kind of toxic masculinity and like rap music and whatnot. They're like both as pivotal to like Black culture, you know, as both of them together, you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's like I've always kind of strived to see what is there to kind of pick up, always kind of ask questions. And I always found myself like when I watched a good film or a good piece of content, it always stuck with me and it always kind of made me think about, oh, why did they do this? Why is it making me feel that way? And I always wanted to be that kind of artist that always put people in a position to kind of think deeper about what they're watching and what they're viewing. So yeah, that's how I would go about it.
Yeah, that's sick. And you're kind of just like asking them the question. You're putting it out there rather than, you know, showing like, you know, the glitz and the glamour. You're like, you know, there's a question, you know, it's more find the answer yourself kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more than that. And I think it's cool. And I think like it's not like a monolith of just like we all got to do the same thing. I think like as Black people and Black artists, we should be given the space and opportunity to express ourselves and to almost like, I don't know, just allow ourselves to tell the stories that we want to tell, because there's so much in our culture that needs to be explored. And for me, I just kind of want to take the baton and run with that. So that's something that I've always kind of championed in all of my projects from when I first started. So yeah.
Do you feel like there's just a lot of that going on in general, or do you feel people tend to be a bit scared talking or like, you know, showcasing about these almost like taboo kind of
yeah. I feel like it's a little bit of like both. I think now we're in a space where we're seeing a lot more people being like expressive with their art. They're not holding back, but I feel like sometimes like the conversations are still quite like limiting. I feel like there are people making the art, but sometimes the art's not necessarily getting picked up because I guess the gatekeepers and the people that are not ready to have them conversations, because it often puts them in an uncomfortable situation. So I think definitely as we progress more, we'll probably see more of those conversations come up to the surface. And I think it has been happening a lot more. I think it just needs to be a thing where it's just kind of the norm and not necessarily like, oh, the weird left thing in the corner, you know what I mean? The flash in the pan type thing where it's like, oh, we're having this conversation now. This should always be something that is happening. It should always be like current, you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. And that's what I'm trying to do in it.
Yeah, sick. And so kind of like now, maybe kind of tying that in with like your ad work, you know, how has that transition been? Like, have you been able to kind of implement your style into the, like working with the ad, or have you kind of not relearnt, but kind of relearnt the system in which to how approach things, you know?
So I feel like when I entered the advertising industry, I really did notice that there was kind of like, not necessarily like a formal way, but there was just rules and things that people did and whatnot. And obviously, like for me, I didn't really know much about the advertising game, so I just kind of said, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? And I always want to be myself in the room. I never want to feel like I'm trying to conform to something, because I don't do my best work and I'm not my best version of myself. So I just kind of kept true to myself, you know, and I always valued and always thought that there's weight in my experiences a lot of these people go to like I guess the same kind of school background. It was all kind of the same way that come into the industry. Me, I've come into the industry not going to uni, not going to like I'm not privately educated or whatever. Like I do things quite differently, you know what I mean? So for me, what I just kind of did was I just kind of just basically was myself, you know. I just brought my own experiences, my own way of thinking. When people were kind of discussing ideas and saying, oh, but we do it like this, I was like, but we should do it like that. You know what I mean? Like just trying to be myself and be reflective of like the voices and the experiences that I bring to the table, you know what I mean? Or bring into the working space. And that's just not like stylistically as a creative, that's just even from that production standpoint. It's like bringing a bit more like kind of diversity onto like our productions, you know what I mean? Being a bit more inclusive when we're creating our ideas, who are we talking to, you know what I mean? And I think as I've just gotten older, I've just basically just been more of myself. And I always tell people that are kind of entered in by the industry, like, yeah, there's a way of doing things and whatnot, but like always be yourself, always be true to yourself, you know what I mean? And that's really it, to be honest. It's just like, and obviously being true to yourself is just not like compromising on things that make you you know what I mean?
For sure. And so do you work, are you directing these videos, or are you working with like maybe a team and then you're like a creative in the team? Like how, like what is that dynamic?
Yeah, so I'd say like the process of like how I go about like in terms of like my kind of like day to day at being a director. So often what will happen is that like we'll get like a brief from like the creatives on the agency side, and then they'll be like, oh, we're working with this brand, and what we want to do is this, and this is our idea. And then I'll be quite on the executional side of things, essentially. So what I'll do is I'll get the brief, and then my producer, the EP or the producer I'm working with will kind of like brief me on it, and then they'll be like, this is how much the budget, we're working with like 25k or whatever. What are your kind of thoughts? I'll basically go through, think about it, and then I'll start like writing a treatment. And then I'll work with the creatives depending on who they are. If I've got a really close relationship to them, I'll kind of stay close to them and develop that idea as well, because I think it's good to have a relationship like that. And then what will happen is that we'll get to a point where I'll start considering like, here's my team. So my DOP, my first AD, you know, obviously the DOP will kind of come with his crew and not. And then I'll think about who I want to grade it, what post houses I'm looking at and whatnot, sound design, etc. And then basically once everything's like locked in, essentially, it will go into that. But I guess there's like a time where I'm kind of like individual as like a director creative, thinking about the idea, how we're going to execute it. And then there's the team process where the idea's been locked in, client signed it off after like how many 100 rewrites and whatnot. And then we're like, okay, cool, here's my team, we're ready to lock and load, and we go, essentially. So that's kind of the process. So like, it's nice because I like having moments for myself to kind of think on the idea and just sit and immerse myself in that. And then once I feel comfortable with that idea, then releasing it to like the team and I guess like the crew and stuff, and then developing it further, essentially. So yeah.
And how many projects are you working on at a time?
You know what? It literally like fluctuates. So like literally I could do like one a month, and then I could do like 5 in like a month or 2. You know what I mean? It really changes a lot of the time. I feel like always in the summer, like January, like kind of like spring to summer is like crazy. And then like even in the winter season, because like Christmas, because if you think about it, like ads, like the advertising industry, they always kind of work to like the major holidays of the year, which are basically throughout the year. So like it can really change, to be honest. But I guess for me, it's like sometimes there's only so much projects I can work on. So like I guess we kind of have like a system where like we outsource to our like other freelance directors as well. So if I'm working and I'm swamped, we can always shift the workload around. But yeah, anything from like maybe 2 to 5 projects like a month sometimes, you know what I mean? Really depends. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like, would you say that working with like an ad agency, like have you seen the benefit from that?
Yeah, dude, I think honestly, because like the way how I went into it is so like, I guess I didn't realize how different it was until I met other like directors who were like, you work in an advertising agency? Yo, and I was like, yeah, it's cool, because I feel like where I am and kind of where I was and where I am now in my career, at the time when I first joined, it was like I was working basically in bars and cinemas. I didn't have the security of like doing multiple projects and making money off of like that, you know what I mean? I think the main thing for me was when I realized that the benefit of it was that I get to have this incubator space where I can kind of like work on projects and have like a kind of hub where I can keep on like developing myself. And then also like, because of the agency, I have so many different clients. You're working with very different clients all the time, you know what I mean? And you're working with quite like notable brands, you know what I mean? Working with notable brands that are quite, that are kind of big that have a big impact on our lives, you know what I mean? So it was interesting. And I feel like as well, like having the kind of space, like I've been fortunate to have a good team around me that are like quite nurturing of like my career and my progression. So yeah, man, it's been really, really good, because obviously like sometimes also with the kind of like, I guess the triple rhythm process that most directors have to go on when they're like pitching for ideas and treatments and whatever. I didn't really have that, because the idea would just go straight into the in-house production company. So like I would see it first and I'll kind of just get on it and just do it, you know what I mean? So like, and obviously like, it wasn't me where I was like at the start where I was cutting my teeth doing music videos like how most kind of directors go about today, especially the young ones. I went straight into social content, you know what I mean, without doing any social content. And that is something that is quite unheard of, you know what I mean? Because you got to prove your weight in music videos a lot of the time, because that is like how it's been kind of set. So I felt it was nice to kind of like learn how to do the ad game first. And now I've only gotten to a point where I'm coming back and just doing music videos for the fun of it and building up the role, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's cool, and I think it has been a benefit. And I would definitely say to like young directors, if they can get into positions like that, they should do it, because to have the ability, I think as young people, to have the ability to have a space to learn how other people work, and to be close to like agencies and stuff that you're going to work with anyway in the future, to get that early on is like, it's so beneficial, man, honestly. So yeah,
and I suppose you're working with your peers who have been in the industry like for a while, like know the game in and out, and you're just picking things up
on the fly, man. It's like literal like practical learning, man, because like, dude, I was 21 and I had no idea. Like everyone was way older than me, so like they couldn't believe like how young I was when I first started, you know what I mean? Even to this day now, to be honest. So it's just like to have that kind of space to actually like apply yourself, and to like, I would say almost to like kind of like mess up a little bit as well, because like when I first started, like it was good like knocking out projects, but you always feel like, oh crap, I need to get better, I'm not doing well, you know what I mean? But to have a space where you can do that and have like supportive people around you to kind of like be like, you know what, do it like this next time, maybe you need to think like this and whatnot, and then doing that, and then getting to a point where you feel so much confident with yourself and how to kind of communicate your ideas out, then you can start adding a bit more of your personal self and your flavor into it. Yeah, it's been really nice, man, honestly.
Because like everyone has their own ideas, but like the difference between someone who is successful with it and not is like communicating those ideas, and especially with communicating them with clients, with agencies, because there's a certain way you kind of have to go about it, and a certain way of which you kind of have to like bite your tongue at times and be like, cool, let's, you know, move this in, keep moving it, but obviously it might not be potentially in a direction that you want it to move in, you know. Have you, you know, are there any kind of tips or like things that you've learned of how to communicate like more effectively with an agency and ad people?
Yeah, that's a good question, to be honest. I feel like the ways that I've kind of gone about it is like, I tend to listen a lot more than I speak. I think it's like, because everyone kind of wants to be heard in the room, innit? So I tend to just like lend my ear to just hearing what people actually want to speak on. And then what I kind of do is just like, I would say just kind of like question where their kind of thought process is and why is it like that, asking the whys essentially. For me, being visual always works. I think everyone sees things differently, and it's important to talk to people on how you see things, especially as a director, because I guess your style is kind of pretty much everything, or like how you go about, how you showcase your style visually. So treatments 100%. So anytime I'm trying to talk to someone, I usually have a treatment on board, even if it's just a few pictures and like a little log line or whatever, just to kind of give them an idea. I think that always kind of works, because it saves me kind of going on rambling and whatnot. And also like you kind of got to know like the four corners of your ideas, or basically you got to know what's important, what's filler, you know what I mean, and kind of decipher that down. You almost want to be able to kind of say your idea in like, I guess like almost like a logline, 3 sentences really. But then if people are interested, they're going to be like, oh, tell me more. And then that's when you do all the rambling, innit?
Say the client saw your treatment, then kind of push back on an idea.
How
would you
okay, cool.
take that.
Okay, so I guess like how I kind of communicate in like a meeting situation is just that I am quite open to like kind of like hearing their thoughts as well. And I think it's important to make the client or whoever you're pitching to feel a part of the idea. A lot of the time I feel like you can kind of go into the idea and be like, this is my creation, this is my baby, innit? But more time it's like you're working on an idea for someone, you know what I mean? They're giving you the money to make this happen. So I feel like for me, it's just like I explain my idea and I kind of explain it clearly, and this is what I'm trying to do. I take the most important bits that I'm trying to communicate and I also have visuals to back that up. But I feel like sometimes it's like when you have a situation when they're pushing back on something, I feel like it's more of a discussion, and also like it depends how hard you're willing to fight for that, because you got to know when to pick your battles. It's like a war, innit? You know what I mean? You got to know when you're ready to go to war. Is this the right time? And I think sometimes when working a bit more like on the, I guess, the social content type of stuff, when you're working with big brands who like they need to communicate like this, you kind of got to know when it's like, all right, cool. Like, does it make sense to push back on this? If not, then leave it. You know what I mean? But then if it's a bit more creative and there's a bit more freedom in the room, I think you kind of got to like kind of say to yourself, is this going to like impact the idea or kind of take away from what I'm trying to create? And if it is that, I think you should vocalize it a little bit more and kind of give them reasons on why this works. You know what I mean? It always kind of comes down to the why in the creation. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd say. But it's difficult, and if you can just say it, you'll do both things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Jeez, Free Game by Korrie Powell.
Free game,
come on.
Literally.
Yeah, no, like that's really good, because as filmmakers, I think that's a side we always struggle with, is like communicating ideas, and you know, some people can do it better, and then you know, it's interesting to hear how you deal with it, and obviously coming from that ad agency side, you know, you'd like to think that's,
bro. Listen, just be open to criticism, be open to other people having ideas. Like you're not always the smartest guy in the room, you know what I mean? Like you should never walk into a room and think, oh, I'm the director, I know everything, you know what I mean? Because I've been in situations where someone's said something and it's like about my idea, and I'm like, wait, that can't be right, and it actually makes perfect sense what they're saying, you know what I mean? So be open to allowing your idea to kind of take shape and filter and change, you know what I mean? Like that's how I think knowing when to listen allows you to get better as a director, especially in this game, you know what I mean? Because it's a collaborative process. Yeah.
Moving on to maybe your directing on the side, not within the company. What's the balance between favor and budget?
Oh boy, man. I mean, we've been in a couple of situations, isn't it? Yeah, we've been in a couple of situations. Favor and budget. I feel like, bro, if I could show you this thing I follow now, like, because I really struggled with this at the start, and I think even to sometimes now I'm still kind of questioning it, but then there's a kind of system that I tend to follow where it's like, if it's a good idea, is it a good idea? Yes. Is there a budget? Yes or no? And depending on the two, then you kind of ask, is this something that is helpful to you and the person? Then yeah. And then basically it's like that, and then you get all the way down to the bottom, and it's either yes, you do the project, or no, you don't. And I think it's a big difference between the two, but it does tend to overlap. But I think when there's something that I feel passionate about, and it's like, I don't think anyone can tell this story but me, you know what I mean? And if it's like a person that I know and I've got a good relationship with them, and I see what they're trying to do, and I see it as like, this is something that we can build on together and make into something bigger, then I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. But obviously you just have to be quite kind of careful with how you go about that process and what you are kind of like, how you execute that, because if there's no budget, that's a lot of constraint. And obviously you're the one as a filmmaker or a creative or an artist who takes a lot of the brunt of that, you know what I mean? As a director, then I've got to call Toby and be like, yo, can I get you to jump on this project? But there's no budget, you know what I mean? It runs a lot of favors, you know what I mean? But then obviously sometimes where it's like, now I've gotten to a point where I realize that if I can't execute it and it's just going to cause me stress and just be a whole heap of madness, then it's like, I'm not going to put myself in that. Because like, you also got to kind of talk about the stress and the mental health that kind of comes with jobs like this, you know, filmmaking. Yeah, it's fun and yeah, it's creative, but like, if you don't look after yourself and if you're always putting yourself under this pressure and high intensity, Like, obviously, we love the grind, but like the grind can get tough. And if you drop off the grind, you're gonna bust your ass, bro. So you gotta know when to say no. You know what I mean? And it's always a thing where it's like, you know what, not this time, but like under the right circumstances, we can make this happen. So yeah, I think you just gotta know when it is passion and it's something that you really want to tell, and it's like almost like a burning desire, and it's almost like, yeah, this idea excites you. That's when you take it. But if it's one where it's like, you know what, I would love to make it, but I can just kind of see more stress than actual like success of it, then I'm just like, you probably should reconsider and just kind of circle back to when like the circumstances are right. You know what I mean? Because that's happened before in the past with me. So yeah.
Sick answer on that. Yeah. Do you have that flow chart in your room or something?
I got you know what, I save it on my iPhone now, and literally every time someone comes up to me with like a project, I just follow the flow chart. Literally.
Nice, that's cool. And then like have you what can you remember the last time it didn't go to plan?
You know what, Jesus Christ, I feel like, how could I say, like, I don't think that the projects that I've done haven't necessarily like haven't gone to plan. It's just caused me a lot of stress. You know what I mean? I think there's been like projects in the past where it's like I've come back looking at it and I'm like, all right, this is cool because I've learned something. I mean, you learn something on every kind of production that you do, but I think it's the ones where you're kind of sitting in the room and it's like the long day after work and after the rap, you're just like, can I swear?
Yeah.
So yeah, them ones are like, and you're just thinking like, I didn't actually have to do this. But obviously it's like, but you got to be careful because it's like, sometimes I've done jobs and where I've asked for favors from like people and crew, and like I've gone to ask that favor again and it's like, yo, you used it already, you know what I mean? And it's like, fuck, that wasn't the favor that I should have used then. You know what I mean? I've learned that very, very hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's just one of them ones. I think be very like kind of like thoughtful when you're asking for favors from people, because at the end of the day, unless you're self-shooting, then you're fine. But if you're asking other people, you got to take into account their livelihoods, what they're doing, how that people operate. Like, everyone's hustling, everyone's grinding, in it. Like, favors are things that you should use very wisely. And yeah, but what I'd say to probably counteract that is just maybe just have a team of people that you can kind of build up with, and you all know that you're on the same mission, you're all doing the same thing. So yeah, but it's different when you get to that point where everyone's in different points and stages of their career and stuff, because it's difficult to ask for a favor. Like, obviously I can't always ask you for a favor because you're out here shooting big stuff now. So you know what I mean? So you just got to be kind of thoughtful with it, you know?
But I agree. I agree with what you've all said, to be honest. But specifically on that last point of find people who are in a similar boat to you, and you know, build a team rather than like go for some like mad DP who you know you can probably only shoot with once, and then he's gonna come asking for money. And it's like, when you kind of find a team, everyone kind of builds each other up, and you know, you kind of connect on a real level, because the struggle is real. Like, isn't like, is, you know, you're all struggling together in a sense. And it's nice when, like, you know, like, yeah, I just hope within the industry, I know, like, people have their teams, but then sometimes people make it big and then forget their teams, and that's just a bit peak like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why we've been working together for quite a lot of time, man. Literally, yeah. I guess it might be interesting to talk about that too,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's dive in. So yeah, me and Korrie, we have worked together. When did we first work together?
I think we first worked together with Chefs in Schools.
With Rach.
Yeah, Rachel. Shout out to Rachel, man.
Maybe that was like 2020.
Yeah, I think that was like, we probably just got. Did we just get out of lockdown? It was maybe before lockdown. You know, it's all the blur in it.
Yeah. Those years are just all one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like a charity film for this company called Chefs in Schools.
Yeah.
And it was sick.
Bro,
it was wicked. Like,
we smashed that.
Yeah, we did. It was very like, kind of like crash zooms and like kids being kids. It was very cool.
That was interesting because like, I think that was the first time where like I met like a proper creative DOP. Like when I first met you, I thought you were a madman. I was like, what is this guy talking about? Like crash rooms. I didn't even say it. I was like, yo, I didn't even like tell you the idea. You're like, yo, we can do crash rooms and all of this shit. I was like, bro, like it was so overwhelming, but in like the best ways possible. And I felt like that was a project where we were just like, you know what, we ain't really got money. We're literally doing this all on favors and whatnot. Fuck it, let's go to town with it. You know what I mean? And obviously we were shooting with like kids in it, so it was quite like a fun experience. Like being in school actually felt like shooting in school actually felt like we were back at school, like almost kind of just playing around with cameras and doing like test kind of films and whatnot. But I think honestly that project was nice because obviously Sheshton School were a charity that basically specialize in like promoting like healthier eating for like kids and getting actual like chefs in like primary schools to cook like proper meals, and like basically obviously within kind of like kind of urban areas, and getting like kids to eat like kind of like a vast range of like different like vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And I think we shot a school in Hackney, innit?
Yeah.
And they had the farm and everything. And it was almost like kind of like kids making like a manifesto to like people. Because I guess the title was, Do You Give a Sausage?
Oh, yeah. It was all very like tongue in cheek.
Yeah, proper tongue in cheek,
like, instead of swear words, they would say like sausage or
you know what I mean, like bangers. You know what I mean, like all of them words. Some of them
were almost made for camera.
Bro, literally, like the kids is like, yeah, we're making a movie. That, oh my god, that makes me laugh. But like, I think what I loved about that process essentially was with working with you is just talking more about like how creative you were, like being able to sit down and talk to you. You had like a bag of ideas on how you wanted to approach it. And I was like, sometimes you kind of get DPs who like have their own kind of style, but like they're not so like, I guess, out there and like kind of like, yo, you just had this energy to you. And I was able to kind of feed off of that. So when we were trying things with the crash zooms and we were doing like a little whip pans and stuff, I felt like that was there to, you basically elevated that project so much, you know. And I think that's when I realized, I was like, yo, I definitely want to keep on working with Toby, because I felt like there was such like a teamwork kind of like atmosphere to it. And yeah, man, it came across really well, bro. And I think that's the most important thing that I kind of learned, being able to have like a team where it's like, okay, cool, we're all in the same boat. We all kind of know the mission objective and we're all kind of gunning for it, you know what I mean? But yeah, just the communication that we had between each other and like how you would do your boards and how you would kind of put your references to me. Yeah, man, I definitely learned a lot. And I think, yeah, and we've been working ever since then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but to be fair, we've got 2 projects, haven't we, that are currently unreleased.
Oh, we can talk about them.
Yeah. Let's. So, well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, the creams one. Cream. We did it. To be fair, that thing was a total favor job. Like miracles were pulled on that shoot.
Pulled, bro.
Shout out Rory Reams.
Big Rory Reams, man,
for putting up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, like that was definitely a job of just total, like, love and passion for filmmaking, but also like one another, because everyone like pulled through.
Bro.
Everyone, like, shout out Ant as well. Ant elevated it. He was
big up Ant,
pyrotechnic man, mania, literally, whatever.
Like, oh my god.
We literally went to town on that shoot. Like, we called in every favor, pulled in every bit of equipment.
Bro, literally, like, I think we only had we just had it under like maybe 3 weeks to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we should just be real. Like, that was like what, 2.4? I think we did that on. Yeah, which is like slow
for what it actually looks like.
Yeah. So basically, that, I guess the kind of start of that project was I was working with one of my good friends called Alvin, and he has his own kind of agency called Tag, and they're like a youth agency which basically work with like kind of like talk to the kind of Gen Z culture. And they kind of create like ads and kind of content towards brands who are trying to communicate to them. And they had they were doing their first video ad for a brand called Cream, run by a lovely lady called Jasmine. And they're basically there to kind of I guess democratize like sneaker culture in terms of like the reselling and stuff. So obviously I guess similar to like brands like, maybe you could say like you could say like Foot Patrol and whatnot, who have like a community around like sneaker culture, but you paid like a subscription fee to their service, and you basically get entered into raffles, and you can have a higher chance to win sneakers and stuff, and they do like events and things on top of that. But they wanted to make like an ad which basically spoke to the people who already knew about the brand, and then obviously talk to the wider community of people who are part of the sneakerhead culture who don't know about Cream, essentially, right? And then they came up to me and they were like, we know you feel direct and stuff, we love your work, how would you feel about kind of treating on this? So I saw it as an opportunity, as almost to kind of like explore my creative kind of direction talents. That's something I always wanted to get into. Being in the advertising agency that I am, you see a lot of these people kind of being creative and whatnot, and I kind of wanted to try creative for myself. So it was kind of like a Rambo mission, essentially. So I wrote up the idea, and it was basically a bunch of sneakerheads going to almost like a group counseling session to talk to a therapist who had no idea about reselling culture and why they're frustrated about it. So taking the two worlds that I know, like me being like an avid fan of like trainers and whatnot, and obviously having experience in therapy, I was like, let me combine these two things together and see what I did. And then essentially, they loved the idea. It was about these guys kind of talking about their frustrations, and then you had like these characters. Well, Big Man, who's played by Mr. Reloaded, he walks in and he's kind of like the kind of ambassador for Creams, and he kind of breaks down the steps. And then on top of this, you have Mama Creams, Jasmine, talking through the microphone and kind of like taking control of this space in a kind of cool and fun, interactive way, essentially. And then I got to a point where like I signed off with the script and the idea, and I was like, okay, I need a DP. And then my first thought was you. Because obviously working on the stuff that we've worked on before, I knew you would bring that kind of energy of like, okay, cool, it needs to look like this. This is how we could go about it. I know we're working with such a small budget, but what I knew is that you're the type of person where if the idea is strong, you're going to be a part of it and you're going to do what you can to make it happen, innit? So when I briefed you, I remember you I was basically saying it was almost like Scott Pilgrim and like Spike Lee do the right thing.
Yeah,
and this advert, Spike Lee joint, Korrie P joint, boy, coming together to basically make this. But yeah, bro, and had Rory as well, who was producing it.
And then I was like, I know the perfect guy for art.
And then I came in, bro. It was a proper dream team. And obviously, like, listen, like we had 2.4K, like, and you know what, like that's no disrespect to like the budget, because the budget is the budget. Obviously, some people are just working with what they've got right now, but obviously for us, it's a different thing where we got to be like, oh shit, how do we make this fucking work, innit?
And I remember seeing your references, and like I think it was the Spike Lee and Nike advert or whatever, and I was just like, bruv, how are we gonna? This is the thing. I was like, how are we gonna do this? And it's like, it's all well and good to like come in with like these big ideas and these big references, and then like sign people on, but then like you have to be realistic about, oh, what can we actually manage in this situation? And
that's the thing that I think I've been learning a lot, but more specifically learning with you, where it's like, all right, cool, we have a desired look and a thing that we want to achieve here, but this is our budget. How are we going to make that happen? And a lot of it is just kind of conversations where it's like, I'll be like, okay, cool, Toby, I want to hang this guy from the ceiling, and you'll be like, nah, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of working backwards. And I think what we got to the point was like, what is the kind of fundamental part of the idea? And it's like creating like energy. How do we create energy? Camera movement. Okay, what can we do? Whip pants. All right, sick. Can we do some crash zooms as well? Yeah, we'll take that. What else can we do? What's like an effect that I want to do? I wanted to kind of do that thing with the shoes kind of appearing and making it kind of like super like animated and almost that Edgar Wright kind of style, and having the boxes like a kind of a poof and appear. And then obviously like we've got Ant to basically bring those charges on set that basically help that. And that obviously bit into a little bit of the budget, but we did it because we factored it in, you know what I mean? Even with like having the money that like goes up in the air, basically it gets taken up in the air. That was the stun on the string, you know what I mean? Yeah. So this is a thing, and I think when we did that, that was probably one of the like funnest projects I've ever done, you know what I mean? And that's the real difference between like Favor and budget, because we all did that on the Favor, and even though we shot on the hottest day of the year that year, and it was basically a sauna, like people were like collapsing, sitting down, having to take like 10-minute breaks, you know what I mean? But like the nice thing about it was that I got the right people involved. I used the right favors. I got my mum and my auntie to make food and catering, and that was some of the best catering we've ever had in my life. You know, I mean, boy, that food was good. And that's the one thing that everyone says about my productions. If my mum and my auntie are cooking, they're there, bro. They're in. And bro, it was so nice as well. And like having Rory, basically, me and Rory working overtime, doing the jobs that we do at the agency, and then obviously after hours after work, trying to make this happen. You know what I mean? Going to location scouting and whatnot. But like I said, we just had the right team. And even to that post, shout out to my boy Zagamel in India. He's a producer as well. He's got his kind of VFX company, Sulfur Screen, who basically took the footage that we did and basically like for free, pretty much took out the string, the wire effect essentially. It made it look like basically there was no wire there. So like having good people around you as a filmmaker is important. Having friends that are all that team, where like I can say like you're a part of my team, Zagan's a part of my team, Rory's a part of my team, because like I know that we're all in the kind of same ship together and we know what we're trying to do here. And I thought we all saw it as like, okay, this is a project that will kind of help to elevate what we're doing. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing on favors as well. You should approach people with favors with a good project that is going to push them and help them to believe that they're going to elevate themselves. And rightly so it does, you know what I mean? Because I felt like we got so much better like working together and as like director and a DOP after that project.
Definitely. And it's, yeah, with those favor jobs, you kind of, you know, you invite people on and you invite them to bring their own ideas and put their own spin on it, like not change it, but like put their own little thing on it. And I felt on that job like I'm not gonna lie, it's probably my best work to date. And like, you know, whenever to be fair, I pretty much landed a commercial off of it that I shot. It was a 2-day commercial that I shot last week.
Dap you up, bro. Yeah.
Come on. From that, like I sent them that and they were like, wow, this is perfect. And it's like when you have those favor jobs, you know that you don't have the money, but you can put your own kind of creative flair on it and spin.
100, man.
And with that one, I felt what we did really well was we put the money in the right places. Like we didn't have a lot, but what we did, we were smart and we stuck our heads together and we're like, look, we need lights. Good. Like we need at least like 3 decent lights. Cool. Got that. We need the mini explosions. Like, you know, simple things that really sold it.
You know what I mean? It was mental how we went about it as well. And even on like more specifically on the day, how I think we executed the day like properly. Like that was a perfect game plan. Shout out to Marcus Austin, who was like the first AD. But just kind of like, okay, I did a whole animatic. We storyboarded it. I made it into animatic. We broke it down. We basically put it into that shot list, and we were like, okay, cool. We didn't shoot chronologically as well, to be honest. We did everything mix and match on what worked for what we were doing, which is crazy. But it just kind of all came together. And like you said, it's about putting the money in the right places and kind of knowing, and that comes with knowing what is important to your idea. And I think having those prior conversations, and that's why I said like having like a team of people that you can bring and like kind of put their own ideas out. Because I think for me as a director, I'm not really a director that's like, this is my style and this is what the boundaries are and this is what we're trying to do. Obviously, like there's points where I'm like, okay, Toby, I can't really compromise on this because I really need to get this. But everything else is like free game, man, and fair game as well. You know what I mean? I would love always people to come and bring their own thoughts because it just helps it to make it better, to be honest, man. And it's like, I want people to have fun when they're on my sets. You know what I mean? That's the most important thing. Like, bro, we work in a very difficult industry. It's hard, it's difficult, long hours. The least we could do is feed people and make it fun and help pay them if we can, you know what I mean? And pay them right. And I think that's something that we did on that project. And honestly, bro, it's interesting because it's like, it still hasn't come out yet, but it's the good work that's been doing well for us because I've been able to send that around to people and I've had opportunities come off the back of that. You know, that was the kind of first time me stepping out, not just being a director. Well, bro, directing that, basically creative directing it, like so art directing it and writing the script out as well. Had to do all of those things and wear all of those hats, you know what I mean? And we smashed it. So I definitely felt like that was a project where it's like, it felt like a proper level up, like that Mario 1-up thing. Like we did that shit. So you know what I mean? So yeah, and I think it's important to bring people on the right projects and always see the projects as an opportunity to elevate and step up yourself and your team. So yeah, man.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it coming out, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess we were bro.
To be fair, I've been like I think people are expecting, there are rumors of its
Bro,
greatness,
yeah,
know?
bro. You know what? It's so funny. Yeah, it's like that ad. It's so funny. That ad hasn't even come out yet. But because we've been sharing it with hella people. Because every time I see I get a notification on my Vimeo, someone's opened the link. I'm like, who the fuck is opening the link? So I know it's going around and doing numbers. But I've sent it to a few people, and yeah, man, it's just really cool. Like, showed it to my agency, and everyone loved it. They were like, how the fuck did you make this? And I'll be like, I told her, I'll be like, I made it on 2K, 2.4K, and they're like, what? You know what I mean? But it's crazy what you can do, man, when you just kind of put money in the right places and you work with the right people. So yeah.
And yeah, like I'd love working with you on that, because previously it was only the chefs in schools, but like that, to be fair, that kind of did have a style of which we pushed more on Creams, but Creams just looked, it had a very like Spike Lee, playful, and like for me, even though I do a lot of music videos, I felt like I got more space to like bring my skill set on, and like sometimes I don't get that, of which like working with you, is sick. I now know I can offer up things, and
bro, definitely, man,
of which I don't really get
100%.
elsewhere.
And I think as well, like, T, is that like what we were able to do with that kind of production was almost kind of proof to ourselves on what we can do, like, going on further. Because like you said, we did chefs in school, and then we did Cream, and then that was like a clear elevation. Like, we pushed on certain things. We definitely tapped into like the crash tunes. We definitely used a bit more dolly movements as well, because chefs in school was quite static. And I remember saying, like, we want to create some sort of movement here and create like a sort of energy, and we did that. I think on top of that as well, it made me realize on like what we could do with like such like limited resources. So whenever we get to that point now where we're working on the super big budgets and stuff that are coming real soon, it's like, yeah, man, it should be not necessarily a piece of cake, but like we know how to work together. We know what we're doing and stuff. So yeah, bro.
Yeah, that was the second time working together, and now the third time, I would say we've elevated it again.
Oh yeah, man, like, another project, bro.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think we should divulge, because there is actually an episode of The Trenches coming out of this shoot. So I don't think we should go too much into detail, except for that, you elevate from each time, and I feel we have definitely elevated again
3 projects,
this time.
Man. The trilogy. The trilogy, ayo, man. Yeah.
But yeah, there is an episode, behind the scenes episode of The Trenches coming out.
We've done another madness. as well.
And it's gonna be a good episode.
Do we say anything?
I mean, I'll leave that up to you, Mr. Director.
Oi, all right. I won't try to ramble. I'll just keep it quite simple.
Yeah, keep it concise,
So I feel like, so me and Toby have another project, which is basically like the third part of the trilogy, for a lovely musician called Kinike, who's signed to a very amazing label called Fam. And they basically commissioned me to do their music video for Kinike after doing a music video they did for one of their other artists called My Shell. And I decided to work with Toby on this because I thought he was the right guy for the job. And it's coming out soon. It is a kind of a music video that pushes, it's the most different out of the trilogy. It's a bit more like, kind of, I would say, more towards like my personal style of like the things that I'm talking about, like with mental health, and kind of like it's a bit more grittier and grounded in it, but then it's got those kind of surreal elements essentially. And the quite funnily enough, the music video is set around the therapy session, which is elevating off of Creams, but just between the main artist, who basically reflects on her experiences of growing up with her brother. And what happens is that when she reflects on those experiences, she's then transported back into like kind of like a space, she's transported into a mind space essentially, which is almost like a big black studio, where we see all the vignettes kind of her memories kind of play out underneath these kind of spotlights. And it's about her kind of navigating through. And that was probably the biggest budget we've worked on together, I think. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no. I think that's good, because obviously the behind the scenes episodes were the OG Trenches, and I love how we're kind of bringing that back.
Bro,
obviously
I was waiting to get on Trenches, boy. I was like, I need the Trenches episode, bro.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
Here,
you wanted
bro.
it at Creams, didn't
Bro,
you?
I wanted that crease, but obviously budget. Bro, I was like, Toby, can you get the Trenches? He's like, nah, man, the Trenches can't come down here. I was like, no. But when we did that, I feel like when we did the Kanike music video, I think it was the kind of perfect opportunity to get the Trenches involved.
Yeah, it was.
Because, bro,
and then like I kind of met Josh like recently as well, and obviously you know him, so just like I think
shout out to Josh.
It all aligned at that moment for
definitely aligned as well. And I feel like with that upcoming Trenches episode for the Kanike music video, I think you will see in the video like how like we work and the energy that we bring to like our productions. Like it was a good production, like it was so nice, like everyone was super happy, super like attentive to the idea. People were just there was a real care in the air, I should say, and a real like vibe too, you know what I mean? It was kind of funny. It felt like almost like a little like summer like block party, but we were shooting a music video and it had nothing to do with a block, you know what I mean? But it was just like I think everyone just had kind of a good time on set, and we just basically just killed it, man. And it was interesting because that was the biggest studio that I shot at in, where was it, North London Studios?
London Film Studios.
London Film Studios, up in like
shout out SHL.
Jeez, big up them, man. But man, and honestly, it was so cool. Like shout out to your gaffer as well. I forgot his name.
Elliot Morris.
Bad man, bro. What he did that day, and he was so cool. Because also, I think another thing we should talk about, we were all fucking young, like, because like obviously we had like our producer who was producing like the kind of like assistant producer and stuff, and she noticed that we were all significantly quite young. You know, she was taken aback by our ages. Shout out to Vic, she was lovely, one of the best producers I've worked with. But
I thought she was quite young as well.
She's young, but obviously we're younger than her, innit?
Right.
So so it was one thing.
I don't know. I might be the same age as her.
Nah.
Still look youthful though,
you
so it's all good.
Innit? Nah, man. Nah. What she just said was something for what I wanted to kind of like expand on is that she just said that it was interesting to see like kind of like the next generation of like filmmakers and people working like film production, like the energy that we bring to it. There was such like a can-do attitude. There wasn't necessarily, we don't really kind of carry the old dog ways of working. There's tears and you can't speak to me if you're not on this level and you know what I mean? There was just a real like DIY mentality. Everyone got their heads stuck in together. Everyone was communicating with each other. We all kind of just had like the space to kind of just do our thing, you know what I mean?
Kind of looking at your career thus far as a director, like what do you think has been some of the key moments or points of your success?
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so I'd probably say like probably one of the earliest ones were like in my career was Rage doing what he did. You know what I mean? Like I still get messages to this day about it, like people who kind of come across at it and look at it and just be like, you made such a powerful film that really actually made me like kind of question myself and my own kind of like blackness and masculinity. Someone messaged me to say that like it actually opened up a conversation between him and his dad, you know what I mean, and talking about how they express their feelings and how they go about that. So that from an emotional kind of success, that is one of like the biggest things that I kind of cherish to today. And also how I ran that as a campaign. I didn't just do the thing where I got it as a film and I just put it out and slapped it on the internet and I left it there. I created a campaign to it. I did photography for it. I worked with like Black Minds Matter to do like a charity and worked with them to sell prints and like posters, which I donated some of the proceedings to them, you know what I mean? And yeah, like did screenings for it and whatnot. So like, yeah, that was probably like one of my like kind of big successes that I take.
And like what did you learn from that? What did you take away from that from that process, that first film?
Don't be afraid to put your truth in the work. You know, people, there's going to be someone like you in like 50 to 500 years, you know what I mean? Like who are going to see something like that and it's going to make them feel like they're being heard or understood, you know what I mean? So like that's what I learned as well. And like yeah, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and put yourself in the process, you know what I mean? I always see the projects, like those types of projects, they're almost like kind of like, how could I say, like they're like diary entries for me. Like I want to be able to look at my career as like one massive journal and I can see when I did Rage I was going through this, You see, when I did creams and sneaker therapy, this is what I was thinking, become a bit more creative. You know what I mean? To when I go do my debut short, like this is where the headspace that I'm at. So like, yeah, man, even with my photography. So that's what I kind of took away from that. I think as well, the other successes that I think that I like kind of learned a lot from was winning the D&AD with pencil for like some stuff that I did with Burger King in an advertising. I won 2 British arrows for it as well. Like, it's something that I don't even really talk about. I should do more. But like, yeah, I won 2 British arrows for a commercial that I did, a social content commercial that I did for Burger King, which was like Whopper of a Secret, essentially, which was every shoot that we did on the campaigns leading up to that Whopper campaign. We hid like a Big Mac behind the burger. It was like a simple genius idea. I worked with a guy called Fred Wadrow on it. He was a creative. Shout out to him. But yeah, that went on to win a pencil and 2 British arrows, and I won that when I was like 21, 22. You know what I mean? Beat Taika Waititi in the non-alcoholic and food category. You know what I mean? It was nuts. So like, obviously, kind of breaking into the industry in the way that I did, and then to get that achievement so kind of early on, made me just realize what is it that I can do and how I just kind of need to just keep on moving and just. There's space for someone like me here, you know what I mean? On top of that, what else would I also say? I just had my debut exhibition, Sonda, which was kind of an exhibition of like all my work that I've kind of done together over the past few years, essentially, and that was at Brixton House. And yeah, that was one of the special moments and kind of successes, to kind of see people celebrate the work, to see people that I kind of like found my work from like different areas and points of my life and my career, all kind of coming together in one space to kind of celebrate that, essentially. You know what I mean? I think also like another success is probably like the 30 under 30 that I did with Grab Magazine. That was for the Blacklist, so that was last year, and they literally like plastered my face, my big ass head on Piccadilly Circus on that the advertising wrap that they got there as well, and that was crazy, just to kind of be recognized for like what is it that I'm doing, and I guess being like someone who's like kind of like pushing the culture and like being a part of like the kind of new age of like people that are like kind of like setting pace in the scene and stuff. Just like the projects that I do are like the big kind of successes for me, really, when I look back on my career and like what is it that I'm trying to kind of create. And also I guess like the people that I've met, you know, being able to work with people and to like kind of like from SBTV to BBC to kind of like like working at like Black Sheep Studios, you know what I mean?
What have some of the key factors been in your success?
Ooh, okay, yes. So I'll definitely say like the key factors in my success is probably one, just being myself, being true to myself, kind of like not being afraid to not being something that I'm not, just being me, just like taking the things that make up like who I am as a person and applying it to the work. I think that's definitely strong as well. Building a team, well, being open to collaboration, and when I say being open to collaboration, being open to like working with people that are willing to bring their own ideas and their own thoughts to the table. I think also on top of that, listening to myself a little bit more. Like, I think a lot of the time is like you can get a lot in your head about like, oh, am I thinking the right things and whatnot? But I think you really have to question yourself and ask yourself like, why are you doing it? Even on your good and bad days, like understanding like, what's the purpose? What are you trying to do? And I think another thing which kind of leads on to that is more like knowing that you've got a big part of my kind of like the key factor of like a part of my success is like me knowing that I have the right amount of everything to do what I want to do, and like knowing that my experiences have weight. So like kind of just taking inspiration from like the little things that I like from reading comics and looking at other materials and stuff, and obviously studying like some of like the greats and whatnot, like Khalil Joseph, Hiram Awai and whatnot. But like, yeah, definitely doing that. And then also, bro, just like being open to put out the work, make the mistakes, you know, failing forward. Failure is fun, you know what I mean? Like, it is difficult and you will cry, but like you will get better over time, you know what I mean? And what I would say is another key factor, bro, just applying yourself. applying yourself, putting yourself forward for opportunities, always trying to seize the things that come towards your way, you know, and also just like asking questions, bro, reaching out to people. Like, you know what I mean? I always tell people to look for mentorship, because I think that's something that helped me a lot, having mentors, having people that could just kind of like be like, yo, I think you should be doing this, or this is my advice to you, or just having someone that you can just kind of like put your ideas to, you know. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I resonate with all of those points. I think, yeah, just staying true, but also being comfortable in staying true to yourself. And like, you kind of, you know, you strike me as a person not to be jumping at the next thing all the time. You seem like you think about it, and, you know, sometimes feeling comfortable in those times where you're not doing anything, but, you know, you're just absorbing, you're reflecting, you're taking it in. Kind of with that in mind, you know, what are the next steps for you? Like, are you scheming?
Yeah, definitely scheming. I'm gonna take a big holiday first before I get to it. But like, yeah, definitely scheming. I think like what you were saying about like me not being a person to like jump onto the next projects. I always feel like you just gotta move. You gotta move correct, innit? You know what I mean? You got and like step correct and kind of like know what is beneficial to you. I think once you have a kind of understanding of yourself, and obviously that takes time, you kind of know what's for you and what is not for you. So I feel like for me, it's like I always try to align myself to projects where I feel like I can kind of get my voice out there. You know what I mean? That is gonna, I actually like, bro, like, I got something to say, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm on. I want to say the things that I want to say. So if I'm working on something that doesn't necessarily align with that, I'm not going to do that, you know? So it's definitely like, what I could say is like, it's about being intentional. It's about moving with intention. Why are you doing this? How are you doing this? You know what I mean? So like for me, it's like I always try to work on things that I know is going to take me to where is it that I want to be. You know what I mean? Not everything that comes to you is always a good thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, just make what you want, bro. Just create the things that you want to create, learn the things you want to learn, apply yourself to the things that you want to do. So I just try to move with integrity, man. I think too many times like people just try to jump at the next opportunity in the fear of missing it, or it's going to take them to this place. But like, bro, sometimes it's just good to stand on your 2 feet and just kind of watch things, you know what I mean? And then when you're like, okay, cool, this makes sense, go and do it, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's not always a clear answer, but with time it becomes a lot more clearer, and I think that's what I'm trying to do. So like, talking on like scheming, I think moving forward, like I'm just building up to like kind of write like my first like short. I think like obviously, like I said, my career's been interesting, going from like doing like kind of ads to like social content to ads and stuff, going back to like doing music videos. Now I want to go a bit more into narrative. I think something that I've been trying to do is like make my work more and more like narratively driven, something that you would see on TV, something that you would see on film. That's where I kind of want to be. So that's the kind of things that I'll be doing. So making more shorts, making more music videos as well, with like people that I kind of like love their sound and like they're trying to build up something, you know what I mean? I want to apply myself to that. I think another thing for me is like kind of like creating and making my own kind of like studio for the future, you know what I mean? I think that's something that I always have in the back of my head. I feel like I'm gonna get to a point where I get older and I want to be able to make the process easier for like the next Korrie in like 20 years to kind of come through, you know, because it was kind of like a little bit difficult for me coming up. So I think it's important to like have a space where I can like help other people and like house the next kind of like creative projects and my own creative projects, you know what I mean? But I think like that's like more towards the future, and then just having a lot more fun like creating.
Sick, man. Well, yeah. I think that's a really nice note to kind of leave it on.
Yeah.
Unless, is there anything else you want to add, or maybe a little sign off? Like maybe to be fair, maybe let's go. If you had to give advice to your younger self, just one piece of advice to your younger self / a younger director, what would it be?
What would I say? That's a good question.
Go Jim.
Go. Yo, oh my days, man. Tell you, you're gonna make me laugh. I would say one thing that I would give to my younger self, or like a younger director, I would just say it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, bro. Like you've got the right amount of everything to do what you need to do. Your idea's dope. But just think about how applying it, put it into a treatment. But yeah, man, don't overthink it. Just try. Go out and try. Put yourself out there. Because like, what's the worst that can happen? What you learn, and you get better. Do that. I would just say, don't overthink it. Yeah, don't overthink it, bro.
Jeez, that's cool. All right, mic drop. Mic drop it. Boom. Yeah. Well, Korrie, thanks so much for coming through. Korrie Powell, free game.
Yeah, man.
Book coming out soon.
The book coming. Wait, listen. Like, bro, I'm doing my podcast run. Stephen Barnett's.
Yeah, for sure. Man, but no, I appreciate you coming through. Everyone follow Korrie on his socials. They'll be in the description or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, give us, follow the journey, because we got 2 banging videos coming out.
We've got 2 banging videos coming out, man. It's gonna be interesting. And more, bro.
And more. All right, bro.
Yes.
Thanks for coming through.
Peace. Sick.